what is the best profession? What's the best profession spec? What profession should I do? I get asked these questions all the time on Discord, on the stream, etc., etc. So I thought it'd be a question that sort of tried to tackle today. Now, I have made tens of millions of gold from multiple professions this expansion, but that's not really reflective of the current markets, which is much more competitive than when I made the vast majority of my gold. So what is the current best spec profession for gold making in the war within in the current competitive environment we have? So let's just talk a little bit about leatherworking. Leatherworking has been fairly terrible this expansion. It's been largely not great for the vast majority of the time, and it's the profession that I've definitely heard the most negative feedback from you guys, and I've very rarely heard anything positive about it whatsoever. Now, like I always say, someone somewhere is obviously making gold from this. Someone is making it work. But like I say, generally speaking, this is the profession I've heard the worst things about this expansion. I got my leatherworker set up recently. It took about 2 weeks from starting from scratch to becoming a BIS crafter using the profession knowledge catch-up. If you want to know how to do that, I am going to link that at the end of this video. Now, there were some little bits I could do perhaps to make some gold on here once I got up to the point where I was a BIS crafter, but there was nothing really that was sort of fantastic and pretty much what I was expecting from the feedback that I'd heard from you guys and the community in general. But then suddenly everything changed. Over Thursday and Friday, things changed really rapidly. There was suddenly a massive shortage of skinning materials coming into the market. Now, I'll put some graphs in the top right hand corner here, but you can see that the total quantity available on the auction house, that's the red line, sort of massively drops off suddenly. And this is across the entire region-wide auction house. Like I said, so the amount available absolutely died, and the prices absolutely went through the roof. The prices on the raw skinning materials increased a lot, but the prices on the crafted reagents from those raw skinning materials went up by even more. So suddenly all the leatherworking reagents were crafting at like 100G plus each profit per craft, and some of them were even much higher than this. So the carapace backed hide, so this is the one that you craft to craft into most other things. So it's like probably the most common one that you are crafting. These were crafting at 267 gold each profit per craft. And like I said, this is going into a lot of the other things that you are crafting in leatherworking as well. So that's absolutely insane. It's been ages since I've seen sort of 267 gold profit per craft. And like I said, because we are putting these into other things, then the profit margins we're actually getting on those other things is actually higher than it's showing because we're using crafts in here. I'm not using my own spreadsheet for this. So, for example, the lay fused hide here, we're getting 426 gold per craft, but it's actually probably higher than this because this is based on the crafting data, which is basically buying the carapace back hide from the auction house, but we're obviously crafting those at 267 gold profit. So like I said, that this profit margin is actually much higher. So basically, the profit margins on leatherworking just went absolutely insane. So basically, leatherworking probably became the best gold making profession in the war within in sort of quite a fast turnaround. So it went from being, very average, hardly any profit margins, like a lot of professions seem to be a lot of the time, to just being absolutely insane. As you can see, I'm crafting here for sort of like really, really, really good profit margins we've not seen for like weeks or even months probably in leatherworking at this point. Now, I wasn't the only one. Many of you guys on the gold making community Discord had also found a lot of other markets as well that had gone through this same sort of pattern on Thursday and Friday last week. So like with the leatherworking, you see massive reduction in the amount of stuff available coming into the markets. Profit margins were going higher than they had been for, like I said, weeks or months in some cases. Now, if you're not on the gold making community Discord and want to see all this happening in real time rather than later on in the video, the link to the Discord is in the description below. And I know what the comment's going to be. It's going to be like, say, US only thing. This was happening on EU as much as it was happening on the US. It wasn't sort of restricted to one region what was going on here. There were plenty of guys that were making a lot of gold from this on the EU as well. It's market shifts. It's not something that's sort of like stuck to one region. The conclusion I perhaps came from this was perhaps that there was simply just a lot less people farming on retail World of Warcraft for a few days. And this was most likely probably because of the re-release or whatever we are at this point of Classic WoW. So basically you have a delicate bounce between supply and demand that keeps prices where they are. And if that gets disrupted, then prices can change very quickly, as we saw here. And this is sort of a symptom of the region-wide auction house. So things can go to extremes very quickly if that bounce gets upset. And this is obviously what it looks like happened here, because usually at this point in the week, you can tend to start seeing people dumping on the auction house. So you see the quantities going up and up and up, and the prices go down, down and down. And that tends to happen through sort of like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sort of a few days after that reset. The amount of quantity on the auction house goes up, the prices go down. So this was an unusual situation. So obviously, there's a lot less coming into the economy. Prices have gone absolutely crazy because of it. And obviously, it was a fantastic gold-making opportunity for those that realised this and took advantage of it. And then what we have basically is we have this profession, leatherworking, that was terrible, or should we say very average a few days earlier, and suddenly just becomes insanely profitable. And just to point out here, leatherworking wasn't the only one, it was just the one that I took advantage of. Why is all this relevant then? So now I could sit here and I could say, look, wow, look at these profit margins. Leatherworking is insane, make millions of gold from this, and it will farm views and likes all day long. Fantastic for YouTube, but it's all bollocks, okay? This is the part where I tend to get downvoted for telling the truth, because people don't like the answer. At this point in the expansion, there is no best profession or best profession specs. Markets are changing all the time. Profit margins are changing literally hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute. You saw this here. Leatherworking was not in a good place, and then suddenly crafting all the leatherworking regions just became insanely profitable. Everything is up and down all the time. Today, leatherworking was great. Tomorrow, it could be missives from inscription. The next day, it might be mining royals from enchanting. There is no one profession that is absolutely killing it out there. In fact, they are all super competitive, but occasional market shifts do occur. And if you take advantage of them, then you can make a decent amount of gold from it. Now, this leatherworking example was an extreme example. Things don't usually shift by that much, and you don't need to wait for the sort of re-release of Classic to make some gold. You just need to keep an eye on the markets all the time as things are shifting. And if you get on it, like I did here, when these markets do shift, then you can make a lot of gold from it. All that being said, like I said, I don't want to sit here and say this profession is the best profession, etc., etc. But what I do want to say is that there are certain professions which I probably suggest you do avoid. So number one is alchemy. If you are starting a fresh profession, then it is literally going to take months and months and months to get to the point where you can make profit from alchemy, even if there is a market shift. So generally speaking, I would tend to avoid that if you are starting from fresh. The other one I'd probably avoid is enchanting from the perspective of crafting enchants, because there are so many concentration builds out there. It's ridiculous. So just stay out of that market, because that market is getting flooded with concentration builds. But pretty much anything else with crafting, I do think that you can make gold. Well, you can make gold because people are making gold, otherwise things wouldn't be on the auction house. But that there is the chance there to make a lot of gold when you do get these market shifts, if you are paying attention. Overall, then, I don't want to suggest the best profession spec or build, because like we've seen, things are changing all the time, every day, although I did obviously suggest those professions to avoid. The most important thing, though, is even if you come out of a market because profits are low, whatever, keep an eye on it. There must have been some crafters out there who stopped doing the leatherwork regions because of those narrow profit margins and just didn't come back. And then obviously when we've had this crazy run on profit for the last few days, they've just completely missed out on it because they wasn't keeping an eye on that market. So there's less competition for like me, etc. But if you'd have been one of those people and you were keeping an eye on the market, even if you didn't want to be involved when the profit margins were crap, you do want to be involved when the profit margins suddenly get really, really good. And if you keep an eye on that market, even if you are not currently in that market, but you know you can craft it well, then you can come back in if there ever is those sort of shifts where you can make a lot of gold. So I hope that sort of helped. Shows that you can sort of make gold from these things that aren't supposed to be making gold, but you just have to time it well. But once again, it's another one of those things where you have to keep an eye on the markets, and hopefully when they do shift, you can jump in there, take advantage. And like I said, this was sort of getting talked about quite openly on the Discord. Obviously, you could have seen it in there in real time as well if you want to do. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.